The iron bit my wrists before I could scream. Cold metal, colder stone, and the eyes of every citizen in the court square watching as Aldrich von Steinberg dragged me like livestock through the crowd, the chains singing their metallic song with each stumbling step I took across the cobblestones. They didn't just chain me, they displayed me. In the center of the court square, where traitors were broken and left to rot, the king said my name like it was dirt. He had no idea that the prophecy he'd sworn to protect was kneeling right in front of him. Before we go further into what happened that day, I need you to do something for me. Hit that subscribe button right now, because what I'm about to tell you will change everything you thought you knew about hidden royalty, ancient prophecies, and the price of revenge. And listen, I share these stories because I want to connect with you. So tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I want to send you a hug wherever you are in this world. Now, let me tell you how the most humiliating moment of my life became the catalyst for the most incredible transformation anyone has ever witnessed. The morning started like any other morning in the merchant quarter of Hohenberg. I was Greta, just Greta. No family name, no lineage, no importance whatsoever in the grand tapestry of the empire. I sold herbs in the market, chamomile for sleep, yarrow for wounds, sage for protection. The old women would come to my stall and whisper their ailments, and I would fill their baskets with remedies that had been passed down to me by the woman who raised me, Magdalena, who died 3 winters past without ever telling me where I truly came from. I should have known something was different about me. The dreams should have been my first clue. Every night since I turned 20 summers old, I dreamed of a throne room I had never seen, with 7 pillars of black marble and a floor that reflected the stars even in daylight. In these dreams, I wore a crown that felt too heavy for my head, and people I didn't recognize knelt before me with their foreheads pressed to that impossible starlit floor. But dreams are just dreams, right? That's what I told myself every morning when I woke in my small room above the apothecary, with a smell of dried lavender and the sound of the baker's apprentice whistling as he started his ovens before dawn. On the day everything changed, I was arranging my herbs when I saw him. Aldrich von Steinberg, the Lord Commander of the Emperor's Guard. Even his name tasted like iron and authority. He was a mountain of a man, broad-shouldered and cruel-eyed, with a beard that was more gray than black and hands that had ended more lives than I had years on this earth. He wasn't alone. 6 guards flanked him, their armor catching the early morning sun like a threat, and they were walking directly toward my stall. My hands shook as I tied up a bundle of thyme. I didn't know what I had done wrong. Paid my taxes, kept my head down. I never spoke against the emperor, not even when the grain shortage hit and people started starving in the streets while the palace hosted banquets that lasted for days. You are Greta. Aldrich's voice was like gravel scraping against stone. I am, my lord. I curtsied, keeping my eyes down like I'd been taught. Never look directly at your betters. Never challenge their authority with your gaze. Greta, who has no family name. Greta, who appeared in this city 12 years ago with an old woman who claimed to be your aunt but shared none of your features. Greta, who has a birthmark on her left shoulder blade in the shape of the old empire's crest. My blood turned to ice. The birthmark. I had always hidden it, always kept it covered. Magdalena had made me swear on her deathbed that I would never let anyone see it. Never let anyone know it existed. She said it would bring me nothing but suffering. I don't know what you mean, my lord. My voice came out steadier than I felt. He smiled, and it was the most terrifying thing I had ever seen. Remove your shawl. My lord, remove it, or my men will remove it for you, along with everything else you're wearing, right here in the market square for everyone to see. My fingers fumbled with the clasp. The shawl fell away. The collar of my dress was high, but he reached forward and yanked it down, rough enough that the fabric tore. There, on my left shoulder blade, was the mark I had carried since birth. 7 pointed stars arranged in a circle, with an 8th star in the center, slightly larger than the rest. The octagram of sovereignty. The crowd that had been milling through the market fell silent. Someone gasped. Someone else whispered a prayer. Seize her, Aldrich commanded. The chains came next. Heavy iron manacles locked around my wrists and ankles. They dragged me from my stall, leaving my carefully arranged herbs to scatter in the dust. I heard Frau Hildegard, the seamstress who always bought feverfew for her headaches, crying out in protest, but one of the guards shoved her back. "This woman," Aldrich announced, his voice carrying across the square as more and more people gathered, "is a pretender and a fraud. She bears a mark that belongs only to the true royal bloodline. She has hidden herself among you, deceiving you all, waiting for the moment to strike against our beloved Emperor Maximilian." "That's not true," I shouted, but a guard struck me across the face and I tasted blood. They dragged me through the streets. Every step was agony. The chains were too short, forcing me to take tiny, shuffling steps while trying not to fall on the uneven cobblestones. People lined the streets to watch. Some looked away in pity. Others spat at me. One man threw a rotting cabbage that hit my shoulder and exploded in a spray of putrid leaves. The court square was in the heart of the city, a vast open space paved with white stone that the emperor's servants scrubbed clean every morning. In the center stood the Pillar of Justice, a column of black granite 20 feet high where criminals were chained for public punishment. They chained me there. The iron collar went around my neck first, attached to a thick chain that was bolted into the pillar. Then my wrists, stretched above my head and locked to rings set high in the stone. My feet were spread and chained to iron stakes driven into the gaps between the paving stones. I couldn't move, could barely breathe. The collar pressed against my throat, and every time I tried to shift my weight, the metal cut into my skin. "Let all bear witness," Aldrich proclaimed, and his voice echoed off the buildings surrounding the square. "This woman has committed the highest treason. She has marked herself with the royal seal, attempting to claim a bloodline that is not hers. The penalty is death by public execution, to be carried out 3 days hence, after she has been given time to confess her co-conspirators." 3 days. They were going to leave me here for 3 days before they killed me. The crowd began to disperse. Some stayed, throwing insults and garbage. But most went back to their daily lives, already forgetting about the chained woman in the square. As the sun climbed higher, the heat became unbearable. The white stone reflected the light, turning the square into an oven. Sweat poured down my face, stinging my eyes. My arms screamed in pain from being held above my head. My legs trembled with the effort of staying upright. And I had time to think. The birthmark, the dreams, Magdalena's dying words. "You are more than you know, child. But the knowing will cost you everything." Night fell, bringing cold instead of heat. I shivered in my torn dress, my teeth chattering so hard I bit my tongue. The square was empty except for 2 guards who sat by a brazier near the edge, playing dice and passing a wineskin between them. That's when I heard the voice. It came from everywhere and nowhere, seeming to resonate in my bones rather than my ears. "Greta, who is not Greta, do you know why you dream of thrones?" I looked around wildly, but saw no one. "Who's there?" My voice was a croak. "I am Casper. I am the weight of crowns and the burden of prophecy. I am the oath that was sworn and the promise that was broken. And I am yours to command if you would but speak the words." "I don't understand." Tears ran down my cheeks. "I don't understand any of this. Your mother was Teresa von Adelstein, rightful heir to the throne of the old empire. Your father was Leopold von Hohenberg, the last prince of the mountain clans. They were murdered on the night you were born, and you were smuggled away by Magdalena, who was not your aunt but your mother's most trusted handmaiden. The Emperor Maximilian sits on a throne built on their blood." The words struck me like physical blows. Everything I thought I knew about myself was a lie. "Why?" I whispered. "Why tell me this now, when I'm chained and powerless?" "Because now is when the prophecy said you would awaken. When the true heir is bound in the square of judgment, when the people witness her humiliation, when the blood of sovereignty touches the stone of justice, then shall the sleeping power wake, and the false king shall tremble." "What power?" "I don't have any power. Look at your chains, child." I looked down at the manacles around my wrists, and I saw it. The iron was glowing, a soft, pulsing light that seemed to come from within the metal itself. No, not from the metal, from my skin. The glow was spreading from my birthmark, traveling down my arms like liquid starlight. The chains began to crack, not with sound but with something deeper. Reality itself was fracturing around them. The iron aged 100 years in a heartbeat, rusting and weakening and finally crumbling to dust that drifted away on the night breeze. I fell forward, catching myself on my hands. The collar around my neck shattered. The chains on my ankles dissolved. I was free. The guards by the brazier hadn't noticed. They were drunk, laughing at some joke, completely unaware that the most significant moment in the Empire's history was unfolding 20 paces away from them. What do I do now? I asked the voice, the one who called himself Casper. You become who you were always meant to be. You walk into the palace, and you claim what is yours. The prophecy has 9 verses, child. The first speaks of your binding. The second speaks of your awakening. The third speaks of your walking. When the heir walks free from her chains, none can bar her way. When she crosses the threshold of stolen crowns, all wards and protections turn to mist. When she speaks the old tongue in the hall of usurpers, the very stones will remember and bow. I stood up. My body should have been broken from hours of torture, but instead I felt stronger than I ever had. The birthmark on my shoulder blazed with light, visible even through my torn dress. I started walking toward the palace. The guards saw me then. They jumped up, reaching for their weapons, shouting for me to stop. I spoke a word I didn't know I knew. A word in a language that hadn't been spoken in 200 years. The word for sleep. Both guards collapsed where they stood, snoring before they hit the ground. The palace gates were locked and guarded by a dozen men in full armor. They formed a line as I approached, weapons drawn. Stop! The captain stepped forward. I recognized him. Gottfried von Schönfeld, a hard man who had served the emperor for 30 years. You are under arrest. Surrender or die. I spoke another word. This one meant see. His eyes widened. He could see what I was now. Could see the power that flowed through me like a river of stars. Could see the truth written in my very existence. He fell to his knees. One by one his men followed. They weren't surrendering to me. They were recognizing me. Something in their blood, in the ancient oaths their families had sworn generations ago, was responding to my presence. Open the gates, I commanded, and my voice had changed. It carried authority that made the very air vibrate. They opened the gates. The palace was a labyrinth of corridors and chambers, but I walked through it as if I had lived there all my life. My feet knew where to go. Turn left at the gallery of ancestral portraits. Climb the eastern staircase. Pass through the hall of treaties. Servants scattered at my approach. Some screamed, others stared. One old woman, a laundress with silver hair and a face like wrinkled parchment, fell to her knees and wept. The princess, she sobbed. The lost princess has returned. I reached the throne room just as dawn was breaking. The great doors were carved oak, 12 feet tall and reinforced with bands of iron. 2 guards stood before them. I spoke the word for open, and the doors swung inward of their own accord. The throne room was exactly like my dreams. 7 pillars of black marble, a floor that reflected the stars. And on the throne at the far end, Emperor Maximilian sat in his nightclothes, surrounded by a hastily assembled group of guards and advisors. He was younger than I expected. Perhaps 40, with dark hair going silver at the temples and eyes like chips of ice. This was the man who had ordered my parents killed, who had stolen their throne, who had ruled with fear and brutality for 2 decades. Greta, he said, and he sounded almost amused. They told me you escaped. I told them it was impossible. And yet here you are, walking into my throne room like you own it. I do own it, I said. This palace, this throne, this empire, all of it was my mother's, and she would have passed it to me. He laughed. Your mother was weak. She believed in mercy and justice. She would have destroyed everything our ancestors built with her soft policies and her compassion for the common rabble. She would have built something better, perhaps, but she's dead and I'm alive, and that's what matters. He gestured to Aldrich, who stood at his right hand. Kill her. Aldrich drew his sword and started down the steps from the throne. The blade was ancient, a weapon of power in its own right. I could feel the enchantments woven into the steel. Casper, I whispered. What do I do? Speak the fourth verse. When the heir faces the blade of betrayal, she need only speak her true name, and all weapons shall know their rightful master. I waited until Aldrich was 10 paces away. Then I spoke. Not Greta. That was the name Magdalena had given me to hide me from the world. My true name was Theresa Greta Maria von Adelstein-Hohenberg, Crown Princess of the Eternal Empire, heir to the octagram throne, bearer of the Covenant of Stars. I spoke it in the old tongue, each syllable resonating with power. Aldrich's sword flew from his hand. It spun through the air and landed at my feet. The hilt turned toward me in offering. Picked it up. The blade sang in my grip, recognizing its true owner after 20 years in the hands of usurpers. Impossible, Maximilian whispered. He was standing now, his composure finally cracking. The prophecy was a myth, a story to give false hope to fools and dreamers. The prophecy was a promise, I said, walking forward. And promises have a way of keeping themselves. The guards rushed at me. 30 men, the best warriors in the empire, charging with swords and spears and fury. I spoke the fifth verse, the one about protection, the one that said when the heir stands in judgment, she wears armor that cannot be pierced and shields that cannot be broken. Light erupted around me, solidifying into something that looked like glass but felt like diamond. The guards' weapons shattered against it. They fell back terrified. You can't kill me, I told Maximilian. You can't imprison me. You can't silence me or hide me or make me disappear. I am the prophecy made flesh. I am the rightful heir. And I am here to take back what you stole. Hiram, the emperor of the Eternal Empire, the man who had conquered 3 kingdoms and crushed a dozen rebellions, turned and fled through a side door. But there was nowhere to go. The palace was waking up. Servants were spreading the word. The guards who had remembered their ancient oaths were telling others. Within minutes, the entire city would know that the lost princess had returned. I found Maximilian in the royal chambers, frantically trying to stuff jewels and coins into a leather bag. He spun when I entered, and for the first time, I saw real fear in his eyes. Please, he said. Mercy. I'll abdicate. I'll leave the empire. You'll never see me again. My mother would have shown you mercy, I said quietly. But I am not my mother. I am what you made me. A girl raised in hiding, who watched good people suffer under your rule, who saw children starve while you feasted, who heard the cries of the oppressed while you sat on a throne built on blood. I raised the sword. No. He fell to his knees. The prophecy, the 6th verse. The heir shall judge with wisdom and temper justice with compassion. You have to show mercy. Pause. He was right about the 6th verse. I could feel the truth of it resonating in my bones. You want mercy. Yes. Then you'll have it. You will live. But you will live as I lived. Stripped of your name and your power. Sent away to a distant province where no one knows who you were. You will work for your bread. You will learn humility. And if, after 20 years, you have become someone worthy of forgiveness, I might consider letting you die with some dignity. His face crumpled. In many ways, it was a harsher sentence than death. Guards loyal to the prophecy came and took him away. Aldrich, too, was arrested, along with the dozen high lords who had benefited most from the usurpation. The coronation happened 3 days later. The same 3 days I had been scheduled to be executed. They dressed me in robes of midnight blue, stitched with silver thread that formed the pattern of constellations. The crown was brought from the royal vault where Maximilian had kept it, a circlet of white gold with 8 points, each one set with a different precious stone. When they placed it on my head, it didn't feel heavy at all. The throne room was packed. Lords and ladies, merchants and craftsmen, farmers and soldiers. They had come from every corner of the empire to see the fulfillment of the prophecy. I stood before the octagram throne and spoke the 7th verse. The verse of binding, where the ruler pledges herself to the land and the people. "I am Teresa," I said, my voice carrying to every corner of the vast hall. "I am the daughter of those who were murdered for their compassion. I am the heir who was hidden for her protection. I am the princess who was chained in the court square. And I am now your empress, sworn to serve and protect, to rule with wisdom and justice, to build the empire my mother dreamed of." They knelt. Thousands of voices speaking as one. "Long live the empress! Long live the prophecy! Long live the bearer of the octagram!" The 8th verse came that night, as I sat alone in the royal chambers, still getting used to the weight of the crown. Caspar appeared before me, not as a voice but as a presence. I couldn't see him clearly. He was more like a distortion in the air, a suggestion of a shape that my eyes couldn't quite focus on. "The 8th verse," he said, "speaks of the price of power." "What price?" I asked, though part of me already knew. "You can never be just Greta again. The herb seller in the market who chatted with her customers and worried about making rent. That life is gone forever. You are the empress now. And every decision you make will affect millions. You will make mistakes. You will be forced to choose between bad options and worse ones. You will sentence people to death, even when it breaks your heart, because it's necessary for the greater good. The prophecy brought you power, but power is the heaviest chain of all." I looked down at my hands. They were the same hands that had bundled herbs and mixed remedies. But they would never do those simple things again. "I understand," I whispered. "Do you?" "Because the 9th verse hasn't been spoken yet. The final verse of the prophecy. What does it say?" "That the heir who breaks her chains must forge new ones. Not for herself, but for those who come after. She must build a kingdom so just, so strong, so true, that her descendants will rule for 1,000 years. And every one of them will wear her chains. The chains of duty, of responsibility, of putting the needs of millions before their own desires." He faded away, leaving me alone with the weight of what I had become. The next morning, I issued my first decrees as empress. I opened the royal granaries to feed the hungry. I reduced taxes on the poorest provinces. I established councils where common people could bring their grievances directly to the palace. I freed political prisoners who had been jailed for speaking out against Maximilian's cruelty. But I also did harder things. I executed 3 high lords who had ordered the massacre of an entire village that had refused to pay excessive taxes. I sentenced a popular general to imprisonment for embezzling funds meant for his soldiers. I dissolved a corrupt merchants' guild that had been strangling trade and innovation. Every decision was agony. Every judgment weighed on my soul. But that was the price. That was the chain I had forged for myself when I walked into that throne room and claimed my birthright. Months passed, then years. The empire began to change. Slowly at first, like a great ship turning in the ocean. But it did change. People had enough to eat. Justice became something you could expect rather than pray for. The arts flourished. Trade increased. The provinces that had been on the edge of rebellion settled into peaceful prosperity. I never married. Some said I was waiting for a love that would never come. But the truth was simpler. I was already married to the empire itself, bound by chains stronger than any wedding vows. I ruled for 40 years. When I died, my heir was my brother's daughter, a girl I had trained from childhood in the weight of the crown. She understood the chains. She knew the price. The prophecy had 9 verses, and I fulfilled every one. The first, I was bound in the court square. The second, I awakened to my power. The third, I walked free and none could bar my way. The fourth, I spoke my true name and weapons knew their master. The fifth, I stood in judgment wearing unbreakable armor. The sixth, I judged with wisdom and tempered justice with compassion. The seventh, I bound myself to the land and the people. the 8th. I paid the price of power. And the 9th, the final verse that Casper never fully spoke, the one I only understood in my final days. The heir who breaks chains must teach others to break theirs. Not the physical chains of oppression, but the invisible chains of fear, ignorance, and apathy. I spent my reign not just ruling, but educating. I built schools in every province. I established libraries. I encouraged questions and debate and new ideas. I taught my people that they weren't subjects to be ruled, but partners in building something greater than any one person could achieve alone. That was the true prophecy. Not that I would become empress, but that I would break the chain of tyranny that had bound the empire for generations. That I would show people they had the power to shape their own destinies, to demand justice, to build better lives for themselves and their children. Aldrich, the man who had chained me in the court square, lived to see all of this. I had exiled him to a remote monastery rather than execute him. 20 years later, he sent me a letter. "Your Majesty," it read, "I chained you because I believed you were a threat to order and stability. I see now that I chained the one person who could save us from ourselves. I was the slave, and I tried to make you one too. Thank you for freeing us both." I kept that letter until the day I died. It reminded me that everyone wears chains. Some visible, some not. And that the greatest power isn't breaking your own chains, but helping others break theirs. On my deathbed, surrounded by advisors and family, I whispered one final thing. The words were in the old tongue, and only Casper could have understood them if he was listening. The prophecy is fulfilled. The chains are broken. Let those who come after forge better ones. Not chains of oppression, but chains of connection. Not chains of servitude, but chains of responsibility. We are all bound together, and that is not weakness, but strength. Then I closed my eyes and let go of the crown. Some stories end with happily ever after. But this story ends with a truth. There is no after. There is only the continuing work of building something worth building. The empire I left behind wasn't perfect. Nothing human ever is. But it was better than what came before. And those who came after me made it better still. Because that's what the prophecy was really about. Not one magical moment of transformation, but the beginning of endless transformations. Not one hero breaking chains, but teaching everyone that chains can be broken. I was Greta the herb seller. I became Teresa the empress. But most importantly, I was the one who showed people that they could be more than they thought possible. That their birthmarks, whatever they might be, were not marks of shame but marks of potential. That being chained in the square was not the end of the story, but the beginning. And if you're watching this from wherever you are in the world, know this. You have chains too. Maybe not iron ones, but chains nonetheless. Chains of circumstance, of fear, of other people's expectations, of your own doubts. The prophecy that freed me can free you too. Not because you're royal or special or marked by destiny, but because you're human, and humans have this incredible power to become more than they are. So I'll leave you with a question. What chains are you wearing? And when are you going to break them? Don't wait for someone else to unlock them. Don't wait for permission or the perfect moment or a sign from the universe. Just break them. Become who you were meant to be. And then help others do the same. That's the 9th verse. That's the prophecy that never ends. Now go. Your throne room is waiting. The story I've just told you is the sanitized version. The one that gets recorded in official histories and taught to children in schools. But there's more to tell. Darker truths and harder lessons that only come with time and reflection. Let me tell you about the first person I had to execute. His name was Friedrich von Adlerstein. He was 17 years old, handsome, charming, and completely innocent of the crime he was accused of. But the evidence against him was overwhelming, and I had 3 eyewitnesses who swore they saw him commit treason by passing military secrets to enemy spies. I agonized over the decision for weeks. I interviewed the witnesses myself. I reviewed every piece of evidence. I consulted with my advisors, with priests, with legal scholars. Everyone agreed by the law he had to die. So I signed the execution order, and they took him to the headsman's block. 3 years later I discovered the truth. Friedrich had been framed by his cousin, who wanted to inherit the family estate. The witnesses had been bribed. The evidence had been manufactured. An innocent boy died because I followed the law instead of trusting my instincts, which screamed that something was wrong. I found the cousin and made him confess publicly. Then I executed him myself, not with a sword or an axe, but with my own hands, using the power the prophecy had given me. I wanted him to die knowing that it was my face he saw last, that it was my anger and guilt and grief that ended his life. It didn't bring Friedrich back. That's the part they don't tell you about power. Every mistake you make has a body count. Every wrong decision echoes through lives you'll never meet. You try your best, and your best still isn't good enough, and people die because of it. I carried Friedrich's death with me for the rest of my life. I had his name carved into a private memorial in the palace gardens, along with the names of everyone else who died because of my mistakes. By the time I died, that memorial had 347 names on it. 347 people who would still be alive if I had been wiser, faster, better. That's the chain that never breaks. The chain of responsibility for the consequences of your choices. But here's what I learned. You can't let that chain paralyze you. You can't become so afraid of making mistakes that you make no decisions at all. Because inaction has a body count too. During my 5th year as Empress, a plague swept through the southern provinces. My physicians told me we needed to quarantine the entire region, seal the borders, prevent anyone from leaving, and let the disease burn itself out. I hesitated. Quarantine meant condemning thousands of people to death, including many who weren't infected. It meant cutting off food supplies, trade, everything. Seemed barbaric. While I debated and delayed, trying to find a better solution, the plague spread to 3 more provinces. In the end, I implemented the quarantine anyway, but weeks too late. The death toll was 50,000 people instead of the 5,000 it would have been if I'd acted immediately. So I learned to make the hard choices faster. I learned to trust my advisors, even when my heart screamed against their recommendations. I learned that being Empress meant sometimes doing terrible things to prevent worse things. And I learned that the prophecy hadn't made me all-powerful. It had made me powerful enough to make a difference. And that's actually more complicated. If I could have solved every problem with a wave of my hand, there would be no weight to my choices. But real power is limited. Real power means choosing which problems to solve and which to leave for later. It means allocating resources and making trade-offs and accepting that you can't save everyone. Let me tell you about the rebellion. It happened in my 15th year as Empress. The western provinces rose up, led by a charismatic general named Wolfram von Eisenberg. He claimed I had broken faith with the people by raising taxes to fund infrastructure improvements in the poor eastern territories. He wasn't entirely wrong. I had raised taxes, and the western provinces, being wealthier, bore the brunt of the increase. But the eastern territories were desperately poor, with crumbling roads and bridges that made trade nearly impossible. Without investment, they would have remained impoverished forever, a drain on the empire and a breeding ground for resentment. Wolfram didn't care about long-term economic planning. He cared that his supporters were paying more money, and he used their anger to build an army. I tried negotiation first. I sent envoys offering to meet with him, to discuss his grievances, to find a compromise. He executed my envoys and sent their heads back to the palace in a box. So I gathered my armies and marched west. The war lasted 2 years. 20,000 soldiers died on both sides. Entire villages were destroyed. The western provinces were devastated by the fighting. I could have ended it in a day. The prophecy gave me power enough to shatter Wolfram's army with a word, to make his soldiers turn on him, to strike him dead where he stood. But I didn't, because if I used that kind of power, I would become something the empire couldn't survive. I would become the tyrant with infinite power that everyone had to obey out of fear rather than respect. The entire point of my reign was to build a system that didn't depend on one person's magical abilities. I was trying to create institutions, laws, and traditions that would outlast me. If I solved problems by waving my hands and making them disappear with magic, What would happen when I died? The empire would collapse because no one else could maintain it. So I fought Wolfram the hard way. I used strategy and logistics and diplomacy. I turned his allies against him. I outmaneuvered his armies. I besieged his strongholds until his supplies ran out and his soldiers deserted. When I finally captured him, I did what the old Maximilian would have done. I executed him publicly as a warning to future rebels. But then I did something Maximilian never would have. I spent the next 5 years rebuilding the western provinces. I poured money into them, more than I'd taken in taxes. I appointed local leaders to positions of power in the imperial government. I listened to their complaints and addressed them. I turned enemies into partners. That's what broke the cycle. Not the execution of Wolfram, but the reconstruction that came after. Showing people that rebellion would be punished, but legitimate grievances would be heard. It's exhausting though. Every single day as Empress was exhausting. You know what I missed most about being Greta the herb seller? The simplicity. When someone came to my stall with a headache, I gave them feverfew and took their coins, and that was the entire transaction. Problem solved in 30 seconds. As Empress, even the simplest decision involved consequences I couldn't fully predict. Should I appoint Lord Hermann to lead the trade delegation? Or Lady Brunhild? Hermann was more experienced, but Brunhild had better connections. Either choice would anger someone. Either choice would have ripple effects that I couldn't foresee. I made thousands of these decisions every day. And I was always aware that I could be wrong, that I could be missing something crucial, that the choice I thought was wise might turn out to be disastrous. The prophecy gave me power, but it didn't give me omniscience. Let me tell you about Caspar. I saw him many times over the years, always in moments of crisis or decision. He never told me what to do directly, but he would ask questions that forced me to think deeper, to consider angles I hadn't seen. "What are you really afraid of?" he asked me once, when I was paralyzed with indecision about whether to intervene in a succession dispute in a neighboring kingdom. "That I'll make things worse," I admitted. "And if you do nothing, things might get worse anyway. Then why does inaction feel safer than action?" That question unlocked something in me. I realized I was hiding behind the illusion of innocence. If I did nothing and things went badly, I could tell myself it wasn't my fault. But if I acted and things went badly, I would have to own the consequences. Caspar taught me that leaders don't get the luxury of innocence. We are responsible whether we act or not. The only question is whether we have the courage to try. In my 23rd year as Empress, Caspar appeared to me in the throne room late at night. I was alone, reviewing documents by candlelight, and suddenly he was there, more solid than I'd ever seen him. "Who are you really?" "Yes. Are you a spirit? A ghost? Something the prophecy created?" "I am the memory of your mother," he said quietly. "She knew she would die. She knew you would need guidance. So she wove her wisdom and her love into the prophecy itself, creating me to watch over you when she couldn't." I wept. For the first time since becoming Empress, I broke down completely, sobbing like the child I'd never been allowed to be. "Does she know?" I whispered. "Does she know what I've become? Is she proud?" "She is you," Caspar said. "Everything good in you came from her. Everything strong came from your father. Everything wise came from Magdalena. You are the sum of their love and sacrifice. How could she be anything but proud?" He faded after that, and I never saw him again. But I didn't need to. I had finally internalized everything he'd been trying to teach me. Let me tell you about the hardest decision I ever made. In my 32nd year as Empress, the priests came to me with a request. They wanted me to declare one of the old religions illegal. This religion had been growing in popularity, especially among the lower classes, and it preached that all people were equal before their God, regardless of birth or station. The priests of the established church saw this as a threat. They wanted me to ban the religion, imprison its leaders, and force its followers to convert. I refused. The priests threatened to withdraw their support. The church was powerful. They controlled education, healthcare, and wielded enormous influence over the people. If they turned against me, my reign could become very difficult. But I couldn't do what they asked. The new religion wasn't hurting anyone. Its followers were peaceful. They paid their taxes and followed the laws. Their only crime was believing something different. "Your Majesty," the high priest said, his voice dripping with condescension, "you are making a mistake. This religion undermines the natural order. If people believe they are equal, they will stop respecting their betters. Society will collapse. Society will adapt," I told him. "The natural order you're defending isn't natural at all. It's a structure we built and we can change it. I've seen the poorest farmer solve problems that stumped my best educated advisors. I've seen a washerwoman display courage that shamed my bravest knights. Equality isn't a threat to good society. It's the foundation of one." The church did withdraw their support. For 5 years they made my life difficult. They preached against me. They encouraged resistance to my policies. They withheld services from communities they deemed too loyal to the crown. But I held firm. And slowly, people began to see that the new religion wasn't dangerous. That diversity of belief didn't destroy society. It enriched it. By the time I died, there were 7 major religions in the empire, all coexisting peacefully. That's one of the things I'm most proud of. Let me tell you about loneliness. Being empress was the loneliest existence I could imagine. I was surrounded by people every hour of every day, but I couldn't trust most of them. Everyone wanted something from me. Everyone had an agenda. I had advisors I respected and even liked, but I could never truly be friends with them. The power dynamic made genuine friendship impossible. How could they tell me I was wrong when I could have them executed? How could they be honest when their livelihoods depended on my favor? I had lovers occasionally, discreet affairs with people who understood they could never be publicly acknowledged. But even those relationships were tinged with the awareness of power imbalance. Were they attracted to me, or to the crown I wore? The only relationship that felt real was with my niece, Margarethi, the daughter of my half-brother whom I discovered living in a monastery. She was 10 when I found her, and I brought her to the palace to train as my heir. Margarethi was too young to be impressed by power. She saw me as Aunt Teresa, the woman who told her stories at bedtime and taught her to ride horses. She would argue with me about silly things, whether chocolate cake was better than apple tart, whether summer was nicer than autumn. Those arguments were precious to me. They were the only conversations I had where the other person wasn't carefully weighing every word, worried about offending me. When Margarethi was 16, she came to me with a problem. She'd fallen in love with a boy from the kitchen staff, Jacob, the baker's son who made the morning rolls. "I know I'm supposed to marry someone important," she said miserably. "Someone who brings political advantage. But I love him, Aunt Teresa. I love him so much it hurts." I looked at this girl I'd raised as my own daughter, and I made a decision that probably wasn't wise from a political standpoint. "Marry him," I said. "What? Marry him. Be happy. I'll make him a lord if that makes it more palatable to the court. I'll say he has distant noble blood. We'll invent a pedigree. But marry him, Margarethi. Don't sacrifice your happiness for politics." I did that, and I have many things, but I don't have happiness. She married Jacob in a ceremony that scandalized half the court and delighted the other half. They had 4 children, and they loved each other until the day Jacob died, 40 years later. Margarethi never thanked me directly for allowing that marriage. But sometimes when I felt most alone, she would sit with me in the garden and we would watch her children play, and she would squeeze my hand. That was thanks enough. Let me tell you about the assassination attempts. There were 17 over the course of my reign. 17 people or groups who decided the empire would be better off without me. The first came 6 months after my coronation. A disgruntled nobleman hired a foreign assassin to poison my wine. I survived only because my food taster collapsed before I could take a sip. The prophecy protected me from direct magical attacks. Anyone trying to use sorcery against me found their spells turned back on themselves. But it didn't protect me from mundane dangers like poison or knives in the dark. After the first attempt, my security became suffocating. Guards everywhere, every bite of food tested, every visitor screened. I couldn't walk in my own gardens without 6 armed men watching my every move. Hated it, but I accepted it because if I died, everything I was building would collapse. The closest anyone came to succeeding was during my 20th year as Empress. A group of religious zealots who believed I was the Antichrist managed to infiltrate the palace staff. One of them got close enough to stab me. The knife went into my side, missing my heart by inches. I still have the scar, a puckered line of white tissue just below my ribs. I survived, obviously, but the recovery took months, and during that time I had to pretend everything was fine. I couldn't show weakness. I couldn't let enemies think I was vulnerable. So I held court from my bed, dispensing justice and making decisions while fever ravaged my body and infection threatened to kill me where an assassin's blade had failed. The man who stabbed me was captured. They brought him to me for sentencing, expecting me to order his execution. Instead, I asked him why. "You're an abomination," he spat. "You use dark powers to control people. You're leading the empire into sin and damnation." "I'm trying to make things better," I said quietly. "I know you don't believe that, but I am." "Better for who?" "For the elites who benefit from your policies. For the foreign traders who grow rich while good people starve." "Are people starving? Where? Tell me, and I'll send food." He hesitated, confused by my response. He'd expected anger or dismissal, not genuine concern. "The mountain provinces," he finally said. "The harvests failed 2 years running. We're dying while you feast in the palace." I called for my Minister of Agriculture immediately. Within an hour, we confirmed that yes, the mountain provinces were suffering. And no, the reports hadn't reached me because a corrupt regional governor had been covering up the crisis to hide his own incompetence. I sent food wagons within days. I removed the governor and appointed someone trustworthy. I established a direct reporting system so that future crises would reach me faster. And I pardoned the man who stabbed me. "You tried to kill me," I told him. "But you also showed me a failing in my system. You've saved more lives than you endangered. Go home. Take care of your people." He left the palace weeping. That story spread. It didn't stop all the assassination attempts, but it changed how people saw me. Even my enemies began to admit that I listened, that I cared, that I was trying. Let me tell you about the Great Fire. In my 27th year, the capital city burned. It started in the warehouse district. Someone knocked over a lantern, and the flames spread faster than anyone could have imagined. The wooden buildings of the old quarter went up like kindling. Thousands of people were trapped. The fire moved so fast that entire neighborhoods were engulfed before people could evacuate. I could have stopped it. I had the power. I could have spoken a word and summoned rain, or frozen the fire in place, or created barriers that would have contained the flames. But I didn't. I let it burn while I coordinated evacuations and rescue efforts. I used my power to protect people, not to control the fire itself. I created shields around groups of refugees. I gave strength to firefighters who were collapsing from exhaustion. I healed those who were burned. But I let the fire burn itself out naturally. Why? Because the old quarter was a fire trap. The buildings were centuries old, crammed together with no proper streets or water access. I'd been trying to get funding to rebuild it for years, but the property owners had blocked every attempt. They didn't want to spend money on improvements, and they had enough political power to prevent me from forcing the issue. The fire did what I couldn't do politically. It cleared away the old, dangerous structures. 300 people died in that fire. I remember every single one of their names. They're carved on my memorial in the garden. But after the fire, I rebuilt the entire quarter with proper streets, stone buildings, fire breaks, and water systems. Over the next 50 years, that redesign saved thousands of lives. Was I right to let it burn? I still don't know. Some nights, I still wake up hearing the screams of those who died, wondering if I could have saved them without compromising the long-term improvements. That's what power does to you. It turns you into someone who makes calculations about acceptable losses. Someone who weighs 300 deaths against thousands of future lives saved and decides the math adds up. I hate that version of myself, but I understand why she exists. Let me tell you about the last thing Aldrich ever said to me. I visited him once, at the monastery where he'd been exiled. He was old by then, his beard fully white, his body bent with age and regret. We sat in the monastery garden, and for a long time, neither of us spoke. Finally, he said, "I've had 30 years to think about what I did, chaining you in that square. I thought I was protecting the empire from a pretender and a fraud, but I was really protecting my own power. I was afraid of change." "I know," I said. "Do you forgive me?" I considered the question. Did I forgive him for the humiliation, the pain, the fear? For dragging me through the streets like an animal? For planning my execution? "I forgive you," I said finally. Not because what you did was forgivable, but because forgiveness is the only way I can be free of what happened. If I hold on to anger, you still control me. The chains are still there, just invisible. He wept. "I wasted my life serving a tyrant and attacking the one person who could save us. If I could do it over." "You can't," I interrupted gently. "None of us can. We can only choose what we do with the time we have left." He died 2 months later. I attended his funeral, despite my advisor's warnings that it would be seen as weakness. I didn't care. He was a man who had done terrible things and then spent decades trying to atone. That deserved acknowledgement. Let me tell you about the Great Drought. In my 37th year, the rains stopped. Not just for a season but for 3 years. The rivers ran dry. Crops failed. Animals died. People began to starve. I threw every resource I had at the problem. I imported food from neighboring kingdoms. I organized water distribution. I funded irrigation projects. But it wasn't enough. My advisors begged me to use my power to make it rain. "You have the ability," they said. "You can end this with a word. Why are you letting people suffer?" "Because I don't know what the consequences would be," I told them. "Weather is connected to everything. Ocean currents, wind patterns, the seasons themselves. If I force rain here, what happens somewhere else? Do I cause floods? Do I disrupt growing seasons in other regions? Do I create a cascade of problems that's worse than the drought? So you'll do nothing while people die." I'm not doing nothing. I'm doing everything that doesn't risk making things catastrophically worse. In the end, the drought broke naturally. The rains returned. We survived, though not without losses. But I learned something important. Unlimited power is meaningless if you don't have unlimited knowledge. I could do many things, but I couldn't predict all the consequences. Sometimes the wisest choice was restraint. Let me tell you about the moment I knew my work was done. I was 63 years old, and I'd been empress for 40 years. Margarethe had been ruling alongside me for a decade, learning the intricacies of governance, making more and more of the daily decisions. One day, a crisis arose. A border dispute with a neighboring kingdom that threatened to escalate into war. I started to intervene, but Margarethe stopped me. "Let me handle it, Aunt Teresa." I watched as she negotiated with the foreign ambassadors. She was brilliant, firm but fair, making concessions where they cost us little and holding firm where our interests were critical. Within a week, she'd resolved the dispute without bloodshed and actually strengthened our relationship with the other kingdom. She did it better than I would have. That's when I knew. The empire didn't need me anymore. It had grown beyond one person. The institutions I'd built were strong enough to survive without me. The next generation was ready. I announced my intention to abdicate. The court erupted in protest. "You can't leave us," they said. "You're the prophecy. You're irreplaceable." "That's exactly why I have to leave," I told them. "If you believe you need me, you'll never learn to stand on your own." The prophecy was never about creating an empire that depended on one magical person. It was about creating an empire that could sustain itself. I held a coronation for Margarethe. I placed the crown on her head myself, and when I did, I felt the weight lift from my own soul. I wasn't Empress anymore. I was just Teresa. For the first time in 40 years I was free. I retired to a small cottage in the countryside, the same cottage where Magdalena had raised me, which I'd maintained all these years. I planted an herb garden. I helped the local villagers with their ailments. I became, in essence, Greta again. It was bliss. People would sometimes recognize me and want to talk about my time as Empress, but I'd gently redirect them. That was someone else, I'd say. I'm just an old woman who knows about herbs. I lived 5 more years in that cottage. 5 years of simplicity and peace. 5 years of being nobody special. On my deathbed, surrounded by Margarethi and her children and grandchildren, I felt complete. I'd broken my chains. It helped others break theirs. I'd built something that would outlast me. Was it worth it? Margarethi asked, holding my hand. All the sacrifice. All the pain. I thought about Friedrich, the innocent boy I'd executed. About the 347 names in the garden. About the loneliness and the burden and the impossible choices. And I thought about the millions of people living better lives because of what I'd built. About the children who didn't go to bed hungry. About the systems of justice that worked. About the future that was brighter than the past. Yes, I whispered. It was worth it. Those were my last words. They buried me not in the imperial crypt with the other rulers, but in the village cemetery, next to Magdalena. My gravestone was simple. Teresa. She broke her chains. But here's the secret that took me a lifetime to understand. The prophecy wasn't special. It wasn't unique. Every single person alive has a prophecy waiting for them, written in their potential, their circumstances, their choices. You have a prophecy too. It doesn't involve magic or crowns or ancient bloodlines, but it's there waiting for you to recognize it. Maybe your prophecy is about building a business that changes your industry. Maybe it's about raising children who will make the world better. Maybe it's about creating art that moves people or fighting for justice in your community or simply being kind in a world that makes kindness difficult. Whatever it is, it starts the same way mine did, with chains. We all wear them. Chains of fear that tell us we're not good enough. Chains of expectation that tell us we must follow a certain path. Chains of circumstance that tell us we can't rise above where we started. Chains of doubt that tell us we'll fail if we try. The prophecy, your prophecy, begins when you recognize those chains for what they are. Illusions. Stories we tell ourselves or that others told us and we believed. Breaking chains isn't about magic. It's about courage. It's about deciding that you will not be limited by your past, your fears, your circumstances, or anyone else's opinion of what you can or can't do. And here's the beautiful, terrible truth. Breaking your own chains is only the beginning. The real work is helping others break theirs. That's how you change the world. Not through grand gestures or displays of power, but through 1,000 small acts of liberation. You free yourself, and then you turn around and help the next person. And they help the next. And slowly, imperceptibly, the entire world transforms. I started as a girl selling herbs in a market. Became an empress. But more importantly, I became someone who showed others that transformation was possible. You can too. Your court square is wherever you are right now. Your chains are whatever's holding you back. Your prophecy is whatever you choose to do about it. So let me ask you one final time. What chains are you wearing? And more importantly, when are you going to break them? Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait for someone to give you permission. Don't wait for a sign from the universe or a prophecy written in the stars. Just break them. Become who you were meant to be. And then help others do the same. That's the 9th verse. That's the prophecy that never ends. That's the legacy I leave you. Now go. Your throne room is waiting. And remember, tell me in the comments what city you're watching from. I want to send you a hug. I want to know that this story reached you wherever you are and that maybe, just maybe, it helped you see your own chains and gave you the courage to break them. 'Cause that's what stories are for. Not to entertain, though they do that. Not to teach, though they do that too. but to remind us that we are all part of something larger than ourselves, that our struggles matter, that our choices echo through time. You are the prophecy. You are the heir to every dream your ancestors dreamed and every sacrifice they made. You are the one who breaks chains. Now go do it. The chains that bound me in the court square were real iron. The chains you wear might be invisible, but they're just as strong. The only difference is that invisible chains require invisible courage to break. The courage to try when you might fail. The courage to be different when everyone wants you to conform. The courage to believe in yourself when the world tells you you're not enough. I was nobody, then I was somebody. But the most important thing is that I helped other nobodies become somebodies too. That's your story too if you choose it. Break your chains. Change your world. Fulfill your prophecy. I'm Teresa. I was Greta. I was Empress. But most importantly, I was someone who refused to stay chained. Be that person. The world is waiting for you.